Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Sam Wallace. I'm the executive director at YPIE. I'm going to be brief so we can get to who you're here to see, our students. But I'm thrilled to welcome you all here from the YPIE College Zone. Now, in normal times, we'd be gathering around now to celebrate our annual gala when we come together to acknowledge and honor our students and commitment to their future. But this year, we wanted to seize the opportunity to put our students' stories and voices out front and center, to share how they're navigating school reopenings, remote learning, college transitions, and their college journey, to share reflections on the world they are inheriting and the challenges we face. The fact that we're all here tonight, and there's many folks already on this, it sends a powerful message to students that we want to hear what they have to say, that we're looking to them for guidance and leadership. In a year like this, we're also especially thankful for some sponsors who have once again stepped up to send a clear message of support to our students. I would like to thank Regeneron, Cross County Shopping Center, Yonkers Contracting, Sound Associates, Domino Sugar, Smith Bus and Jacobs, Delwood Studio, and the Westchester Bank for sticking with us. And if anyone watching here tonight would like to share a gift to help our programs continue, you can do that by texting the word YPIE to the number 31996, because gifts and sponsorships like this help us keep the work going. So I'd like to kick off the conversation by introducing our moderators. Many of you might have seen David Weston, our first moderator, on TV as an anchor at Bloomberg TV. So he knows a thing or two about interviewing. He's been committed to YPIE and our students as one of the first board members to found this organization and as our current board chair. His leadership's really kept students at the center of our work and a constant focus on making sure we're achieving real results. Our second moderator tonight is Charlene Breya, who's a member of the YPIE Board of Directors. She's an alumna of Lincoln High School in Yonkers and of the YPIE program there. And she attended Dartmouth College and is currently a bilingual speech and language pathologist at Montefiore. We're thrilled to have her voice on our board and here with us tonight. So David and Charlene, take it away.
Okay, thank you so much, Sam. It's really a pleasure to be here, as it is always with YPIE things. I'll be very brief. As Sam explained, I'm now at Bloomberg. I've done various things, but the real reason I'm here is the students that you're going to hear from, I'll include Charlene, because I first met Charlene when she was a student. It's what really brings all the board members to this project. I grew up in public school back in Michigan, and I had a pretty good education, did pretty well. Not all the public schools have it as good as perhaps Ann Arbor Public High School did. And so we're really committed at YPIE to really helping the Yonkers public school students achieve all that they can achieve in life. And I must say, I will say for the board, we get more out of it, I think, than the students do even. Because every time we interact with them, I'm really struck with how wonderful these young people are and what great futures they have. So I'm really looking forward to hearing from them. Charlene?
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. My name is Charlene. As Sam mentioned, I am a YPIE alumni. I graduated from Lincoln High School in 2008, and now I'm currently a speech language pathologist at Montefiore Medical Center, where I work with adult and geriatric populations in acute care. We're also excited to have these incredible students with us here tonight and to hear from them about some of their experiences during this year, during the pandemic, and to just get a sense of how they've been navigating these unprecedented times. So we're going to start by introducing you to our panelists. So first, what I want you guys to do is to just tell us your name, what school you go to, and then tell us one word that describes how you're feeling tonight. Olubori, why don't you start us off?
Hi, my name is Olubori. I attended Gorton High School. Now I attend Macaulay at Lehman College. I'm a freshman, and one word to describe how I'm feeling today, I'm really excited.
Thank you so much. Darius?
Hi, my name's Darius Fernandez. I'm a senior at Saunders High School. And one word to describe how I'm feeling today is ecstatic.
Great. Ashley?
Good afternoon. My name is Ashley Acosta. I go to Yonkers Middle High School. I am a senior this year, and today I'm feeling happy and excited.
Thank you so much. And last but not least, Jose.
Hello, I'm Jose. I graduated Riverside High School and I'm now attending Skidmore College, currently a sophomore. One word to describe how I'm feeling today, I would say pretty tired.
David, why don't you kick us off?
Okay, I'd be happy to. One thing I'd like to know is get some insight into what the life of a young person, I'll include both the high school students and the college students here, is in this time of the pandemic. I mean, for those of us of a certain age, this is really a difficult time, but it's really only a small part of our lives. It's a larger part of your life. So Jose, maybe I'll start with you because you are in college now, you've gone through this experience. Give us a sense of how your life is different today because of this COVID-19.
I mean, it's basically, you go from socializing every single day to sort of being stuck every single day in your room, going through your classes and, trying to keep in mind that there is an outside world out there that you have to enjoy, when the weather is nice and everything. There's times where you just want to go out and enjoy it, but unfortunately there's classes that you have to take in through Zoom. And so it's, you have back-to-back classes, which take out maybe 5 hours of your day, and then you have work to do. So it's completely different from prior to, pandemic life, to where you were outside constantly going to different classrooms, meeting with different professors, going to different events. I mean, this event would have been in person, so it would have been nice to, get to meet everybody and see everybody in attendance. So that's definitely something that's been different and definitely challenging, as just thinking about just the workload and having to adapt. So that's something that's been challenging, but thankfully I've adapted well.
Olabora, does that apply to you as well in high school?
Yes. In high school, what I missed most was face-to-face interaction with my teachers. I was such an extroverted student, and I would always go to my teachers and ask for advice on homework that I didn't really understand. So it was really easy for me to do my work until pandemic, and I had to start emailing my teachers for work, and also having to think that I'm bothering my teachers, keep asking the same question over and over because I didn't understand it. Another challenge that I really faced was family health, and being, because my mom works as a nurse, and she would come home and the first thing she would do is jump in the shower and just wouldn't be able to say, oh, I want to hug you, and be like, first I have to clean up before I can hug you and everything. And there was a time where we were asked to drink tea just to prevent COVID, and my mom would make us hot ginger tea and say, drink this, it's good for your body. So that was one thing. And just, I really sucked at time management. Oh my gosh. It was a very big thing for me then, because I didn't really know how to prioritize and work with turning homework in at 3 p.m. in the afternoon of the next day while doing all other work together. So those are some challenges that I faced during the.
And Olabori, do you think that your time management skills have progressed or changed at all or gotten any better throughout all this?
Yes, oh my gosh, I'm so thankful. I got so much better, and I feel so much confident when I do my work because I've been able to learn how to prioritize. It was challenging at some point, but then after I was able to figure out, do do the work that's due first before worrying about everything, because I would just pack everything, be like, oh, I have 3 homework due tomorrow, but then which one's due first? Do that one first, knock that out first. And then I was able to time manage everything and be able to turn in excellent work.
That's great. How about you, Darius?
I can definitely relate to Jose and Olabore when they say that this was a whole new thing that they need to get used to, and definitely trying to navigate how school is going to work and trying to navigate online schooling. And I think this pandemic really reflected some of the things that we as students need to get better about, which is time management, making sure we do assignments on time. And being in my last year of high school, I didn't think that it would go this way, that I would be here at home, stuck to my computer, going to lecture after lecture. But hopefully we'll all come together and this pandemic will eventually be over.
So Ashley, let's turn to you. I'm curious about what the experience is in the Yonkers Public Schools right now. I mean, do you have confidence about what the rules are, what the guidelines are, what they want you to do, what they don't want you to do?
Oh my God. You know, as a junior, when this pandemic hit, everything went really crazy, you know. As a full IB student, you know, my school participates in the IB program. So we have this amazing opportunity to graduate with the IB diploma. However, that does come with certain requirements such as community service hours, extended essays, and when this pandemic hit, teachers weren't communicating with us on how we could do it virtually. They were like, we're sorry, but you still have to get those hours done. And I was at that place where, you know, it was very difficult for me to say, like, you know, I took junior year with all of my classes in, and they're rigorous classes that you take because you do want to get the diploma. But suddenly I was like, okay, well, how am I going to get my community service hours if I can't interact with people face to face? However, luckily, YPIE did come up with this great solution of bringing the YPIE Tech Squad, which helps with senior citizens through their technological needs. And through that, I've been getting many of my community service hours done. And also I've been interacting with many amazing senior citizens that I never knew, but I'm helping them and they are helping me. So.
Great. All right, so now I want to talk to you guys a little bit about the other big issue that's been sort of on the forefront of everybody's mind this year, and that, of course, is the 2020 election. So can you guys talk to us a little bit about what some of the issues are that young people are the most focused on right now heading into the presidential election, and why? Darius, why don't you start us off?
I think one of the biggest things our generation is extremely concerned about, in general, is their future. Meaning, will their government represent them? Will their government support them in times like this if this happens again? They're worried about their education. How are we gonna make sure that we're getting sources that are accurate, especially in a time where we see that the media has been biased and spreading false information. That's one of the biggest concerns, and I think our generation is really thinking about the ethics of our media and how do we go about that. And with this upcoming election, our generation is hoping that whoever comes into office next will genuinely care about the issues that we're facing today, and hopefully we'll get somebody that represents who we are today as a generation and will fix these issues.
Jose, I'm curious, how much do you and your friends talk about this? Is this a big item for you, this election and what's going on politically, or is it more for the older generation?
Definitely is something that I think I talk about every single day, even if it's not in class. We have this topic, and one of the main focuses for me, and one of the main topics that come up is always climate change, because it's something that's going to impact us, because we're the future generations, and currently in time, we're not in power to control many of the policies that are put into place. And so we have to voice our opinions out to older generations to tell them, hey, this is something that's going to affect us in the future. And although you may not be able to see it right now, we're going to be the ones that are going to be impacted by this, especially if we're the ones that are going to have our own kids one day, and they're going to be the future generations for us. So we have to think about their livelihoods as well. And so with that, I mean, we've had a lot of conversations about how we can inform the public, whether through and one specific thing that we do is a lot of social media activism and letting voters know, hey, today is your time to vote. This is the perfect time to send your ballot in, because otherwise it's going to be too late. And a lot of just sharing, and I'm very proud to say I'm part of the generation, because to see how much is going on, how much we're participating, even if we're not able to vote, we're still trying to keep each other informed. And just to put this out there, actually, in fact, yesterday was the first time I ever voted. So
congratulations.
That was a big relief for me, just to say that, put my vote in yesterday, and I'm very proud of that. And so we got to keep the conversation going, and we need a president who's going to understand that we have to believe in the science. Not only, during this pandemic, it's something that we definitely saw. We need somebody who's going to unify us during a time of need, during a time where everything is sort of, disgruntled. And so we need that. We need a president who's going to understand the science and understand that there's a future ahead that although we may not see now, we have to be able to start being active now rather than
Well,
later.
Bori, Jose actually touched on this, but I'm really curious. How do you get your information? And when you talk about social media, there's a lot of information on social media, but we know a lot of it isn't really reliable. How do you sort out what is true from what is false, Olubari?
Just like Darius said, it's really hard to know which information is real, which one is fake. And being involved in social media today as a student, we're forced to look at every single news they give to us because we also want to get informed on what's going on today. So I've just been able to, fish out what I think would be real and do more research on that information being given on social media or on the news or on YouTube, where we watch live information from governors and presidents addressing issues. I would also like to touch on the topic of election. I feel like due to the election and how it affects young people today, we really want a president who has an interest in education and is very interested in the well-being of people. And just as Jose touched on, a president that is not going to brush off the things that science talks about and how science could help empower us with our information today. We want a president who can bring justice when necessary and can make our voices heard. So when we have an issue raised up, like a protest, is someone who will not brush us off and will ponder on it and give us a reply or address the issue. And a president who looks forward to the student interest, because we are the future of tomorrow and we're the ones who will work for this country and be able to bring better things for the generation involved in education today. We want a president who is involved in our well-being in general. We don't need a president who would take education away from the young people and a president who would have the intention of canceling DACA. That's one major way that many people in this country are able to get their education and to pursue their dreams, and you want to take it away. I've also heard from a few of my college students that are in DACA, also going to the front line, just trying to protect their education and being able to pursue their dreams. Another issue was, for college and transitioning into college, I was so excited to meeting new people, having a new beginning, staying on campus, but due to the pandemic, that has taken that away from us. So now we have to find a new way to have a new learning environment, a new way of interacting with people, and a new way of making connections, because that was also one thing I was really looking forward to in college, making connections with new people. But now it's hard because we have to resort to emailing people, which is not like a face-to-face interaction, just like we would do, like body languages and our actions, showing them our intentions and what we're really trying to say. So we really need a president who is more interested in our lives in general and would express and address every issue that's brought up for our benefit.
Thank you so much, Olubori. How about you, Ashley? What are some of the issues that are important to you? Is education one that's really important?
Very important, especially now that I'm a senior. I'm very interested in what president will give me the education that we deserve. Many of us as a first generation student speaking right now, I'm interested in the colleges I'm applying to, and whether that means, paying tuition, paying for books, paying to have that college experience and being able to have it, as many students have. I can say that Darius might also agree with me because we're both seniors, that right now we are in this position where we don't know what we want because of this pandemic. This pandemic has really put into question the type of things, like our priorities in terms of what school will provide for me, the things that I need, and how can I give also my share to the school. But, I'm really thinking about the future in terms, will I be able to pay for my college tuition in terms of this pandemic? Many people have lost their jobs, their homes, and are looking for ways to find food every day. So that's just an important thing we should keep in mind in this election of what president will give us the things that we deserve as American citizens and as citizens in general.
Jerry, pick up on that because you are in the process. You're a senior, so you're looking at college perhaps next year. How has that process changed by the pandemic? I mean, there was a time that all sorts of people from colleges would come into Yonkers and meet. YPIE would have events. YPIE would also take students to campus. I'm not sure you can go visit campuses anymore, can you? Darius?
That process has definitely changed a lot. When the pandemic hit, I was so concerned about how can I choose a college now, since a lot of campuses closed because of the pandemic. So visiting them wasn't an option. During this whole time, we got to visit one college, and we had to follow social distancing guidelines and make sure we're taking safety precautions. But a lot of schools, like the question of standardized testing, a lot of them have canceled as the SAT or the ACT as a requirement for admissions. And I think a lot of colleges have been looking at applicants holistically for colleges who haven't beforehand. And I think this really took into account what kind of students they want to admit into their colleges. And I can say it's definitely easier in a way, but also more difficult to look at colleges and choose colleges and to get admitted into colleges. So college has been a tricky process. And as a first gen, it is a tricky process for a whole family because all of this is new for us. But this pandemic has definitely made things a little bit more challenging. But there are a lot of programs like YPIE who've been helping us get through that and who have had counselors from those colleges lead webinars that we are invited to.
Well, it's great to hear that YPIE has made this process and this transition a little bit easier for you guys. Ashley, can you tell us a little bit more about that? How has YPIE helped you during the pandemic, and how have things changed right now for you?
Well, first of all, YPIE has been really helpful. I mean, just 2 weeks ago, they began the process of FAFSA, and I didn't know what FAFSA was until they oriented me and was like, okay, FAFSA is, financial aid, they help you, and we can help you find, get you connected with somebody who will help you fill it out. And so it was a process of just signing up for an appointment, and I was connected to somebody who knew the experience, knew how to navigate through the application. And, I sat with my mom down and we were ready to fill out the application and make it not scary anymore. And, thankfully, I don't have to worry about FAFSA anymore because it's done, and I feel like, this type of knowledge will help me through the coming years, because I also did not know that you had to fill out FAFSA every year. It's something that YPIE actually told me about, because, YPIE is on top of its game, because my school just like this month told us a FAFSA, and they also provided us with the financial aid night for students and parents. But FAFSA, said we need to do a one-on-one with the parents and students and see how we can guide them through it. And, thankfully I've applied, and now I'm just ready to continue applying to my, colleges and universities and just see what happens next.
Olabari, I'm really curious, how did you even find YPIE, or how did YPIE find you? And what did you do with YPIE when you were in the Yonkers schools?
Oh my gosh, YPIE helped me so much. Without YPIE, I probably wouldn't even be in college, to be honest. Like, they guided me through the whole process, and I'm gonna name someone who really, really helped me so much. Her name is Stephanie Russo. She is my best friend at YPIE. She really helped me through so much. When I first moved to New York, I was in my junior year. It was a time where transitioning to a new state was hard. But then the minute I walked into the YPIE center at my school, she accepted me with a loving hand, helped me with my college process, would tell me, apply to this scholarship, do this, or have you started working on your college essay? I would be like, no. She would say, okay, I'm gonna help you. And like I said, I'm at Macaulay Lehman. I've never heard of that program before. And if anyone wants to know that program, it's a program that funds you through college without you having to pay anything. They also gave me a free laptop, and I wouldn't have had all this without Russo's help. And YPIE, I really, really appreciate YPIE's help in my life, because like I said, without YPIE, I wouldn't be in college.
So Jose, same question to you. How did you find YPIE? How did YPIE find you? What did you do with YPIE during your time in Yonkers?
Yeah, so this amazing woman by the name of Mrs. Friedman, she's like, I call her my angel because she really came and saved the world for me. So one day she came into my history class and she talked about YPIE. I actually had been already part of YPIE during elementary school, but I only applied and I never saw them again until my junior year in high school. And I was like, oh, I'm familiar with this name. And so thankfully I got to meet her and I immediately applied. And thankfully I got in, but actually it wasn't actually, now that I remember, it wasn't actually Mrs. Friedman, it was actually somebody else. I'm forgetting her name at the moment, but she was also an angel as well. And she helped me out for a little bit, but then I think she transferred over to a different high school. And then I met Mrs. Friedman, and then she helped me along with the whole college process. And we had gone in through over, the college essay, and she helped me understand like sort of what are the colleges I should be applying to, what opportunities should I be taking advantage of. And me and her talk about this all the time as to like, I'm sort of like one of the top students that say like how motivated I was, and I always tell her like how she made me so motivated because of how helpful she was, because I knew I had that sort of, person who was going to help guide me. And so it was always, okay, what's next, Ms. Friedman? After the college essay, after we applied to everything, what's next? And she told me, Jose, relax. It's the waiting process. You have to wait for people to, to hear the responses. And for now, you can maybe go visit some colleges. And so overall, I just enjoyed the whole experience. And even now, like I stay in contact with everyone at YPIE because of how helpful they were. And I try to keep in contact with current students who are in Riverside High School, and try to tell them about YPIE and how helpful it is to get you through it. Because like any student, the college process is stressful. It makes you discouraged at times, but YPIE helps you get through that time because it makes everything easier for you, and it sort of allows you to get through that period of FAFSA, right? When oh my gosh, I have to get through taxes. Like now I have to start thinking about taxes. It's something that's never been thought about. So it's just very helpful, and I'm so thankful for it. And just like Alubori said, like, I don't think I would be at this point without it.
That's great to hear. I kind of want to switch gears a little bit and ask you guys, one of the major events that has happened this year that sort of reignited a lot of social unrest and a desire for change in our country was the murder of George Floyd. So do you guys think that event made you think differently about your role personally, or maybe your generation's role collectively in addressing racism? What do you think about that, Ashley?
Usually you hear about racism through your history classes, textbooks, and you wonder, like, how did we get to that point where, there was a war fought just for human rights, something that should have never been denied in the first place. And now with this pandemic, and you hear about George Floyd, which was truly a really sad thing that occurred, because it was no longer read in history books. It was something that people saw, that people experienced. It was happening in our time, and it just saddened me, because you feel it and you want to make a change. You feel bad and you know that it's time to make that change, but there's a lot of people who don't want to make it. And, protests and movements that, are beginning to surface to demand those rights that people deserve, that shouldn't be denied. And just one thing that says, like, oh, we're in this together, we're in a movement, we're in protesting. But it saddens me to see how one person can ruin that image of hopefulness and prosperity that we want to see in this country. And we need a change. And I think this, unfortunately, even though George Floyd's murder occurred, it did spark something in this nation, and it was a voice that wanted to be heard about saying, we need to end this now.
What about you, Darius? What do you think about this?
So with the murder of George Floyd, that conversation for my family and I wasn't new. This wasn't something that we were surprised about, because I have a brother who is Black, and these are things that we do talk about often, like to not have your hood on when you walk on the street, or to make sure that you're not walking on the dark side of the street, and to make sure you keep your hands up whenever you see a police officer, and make sure you're visible. So these things weren't new to us, and racism has always been in our country. And I'm really hopeful that our generation really brought that out from under the rug and are really holding our institutions accountable for what they've done in the past, because the things that were implemented hundreds of years ago still affect us today. And with our generation, we have seen how our generation has gone out and protest and have been on social media and have created organizations and are continuing to go out and help their community. And we haven't seen that in such a long time. So I do have a lot of hope that our generation will really change things, and that no matter what happens, our generation will continue to have that voice and will continue to be an advocate for change.
Jose, I want to come at this a slightly different direction. It strikes me that, I mean, you've gone from Yonkers to now Saratoga, right? So Skidmore is just outside Saratoga. Saratoga is a very different town from what little I know about it from Yonkers is. Does the question of civil unrest, of racial justice, of what's going on with police, does it look different in Saratoga, New York than it does in Yonkers, New York?
For sure. I mean, following the death of George Floyd, I believe we held protests in Yonkers, and it was very peaceful, and everybody was, you know, even the police officers were in there walking along with us. And for me, it was very remarkable to see that, because when I was receiving texts at the time telling people about the actual protest, people were telling me like, oh, like, I don't think you should go there, because in their minds, Yonkers is perceived as, you know, a violent place, you know, and all these different things. And thankfully, I was touched to see that nothing happened, and police were together, everyone was together, and everything went well. And even after that, there were other protests that went on, and they were still remained peaceful. But then contrary to that, I come up here, and first week, there's a protest that went on. And actually, even before I got here, actually, there was a protest that went on, and immediately police got involved. And rather than walk along with us, they actually started throwing tear gas and all these different things. And other people started coming in who, you know, were against the movement, you know, against Black Lives Matter movement. And so it was a complete different change just to see that. And with that, it created a lot of, you know, fear for me and my mom, my family, because we immediately had to think like, well, what's going to happen as soon as I step on campus? Am I safe when I step on campus, right? Because not only do we have to worry about COVID-19, now we have to worry about other outliers in the community who may be, you know, targeting us students, and especially students of color during this time. So it was a complete different change, and just to see that. And even now we feel that with the elections coming up, with Halloween being this weekend, right? Now we have to think about, well, and my mom already told me when I came up this weekend, she said, Jose, when you go out, you know, these couple weekends, you know, make sure you only go out when there's light out. And even if you don't have to go out, don't go out at all, because this is not the time to be going out. This is a time where people are more hostile, and you have to be very careful. So it's definitely been a big change for me, and it's something that I wouldn't feel if I was still back in Yonkers.
Thank you for sharing your experience with that, Jose. You know, you talked a little bit about your family and your relationship to them during this time. I think one of the most difficult things for everybody during this pandemic has been how our relationships to our families have changed, how often we can see them, and kind of worrying about their health and their safety throughout all this. Can some of you kind of share with us your experiences with your families during this pandemic and how you've navigated that? Darius, what do you think?
So when the pandemic began, my mom, she was a nurse assistant, and she was working with my great grandmother. So she would drive into Manhattan every day and make sure that she was okay. And then she had to do a routine that nurses had to do and take care of her. So it was definitely a big change. Like when she came home, we couldn't hug her. We couldn't even be close to her. She would immediately hop into the shower and make sure that she was clean and that she didn't want to get any of us sick. And the pandemic did affect us in a big way. She ended up getting sick with COVID, and that really impacted our family in a drastic way. And it was very concerning because we didn't know what was going to happen. And we were uncertain, but thankfully she got better and everybody in our home got better. And yeah, it was a really difficult time, but things are going to improve slightly.
Yeah, and if I could add on to that, my older sister's a nurse, and she was actually working during this time in New York City. And there were days, I mean, 3 4 days in a row where she would just work and work and work, and we didn't hear from her. And that scared, my mom and I, because we were always like, is she okay? Is she getting, the nutrients she needs, especially, in trying to handle a pandemic? And we were hearing over the news that, nurses and doctors, they weren't getting the protective equipment that they needed. So we were wondering, like, is she okay? And we'd always hear, and she'd send us pictures like, hey guys, like, I am okay. But as soon as, like, those 3 4 days are over and she was able to come back home, we'd always try our best to leave her something, just because we know she couldn't go food shopping or anything. So we'd have to do that for her. We'd go deliver the food, at her door, even if we couldn't see her, even if we couldn't hug her, anything like that. We just let her know that, hey, like, we're here. If we needed to wave through the window, we did that. And going back, to Alibori's point about DACA, my sister is a DACA recipient herself, and she was in the front lines during this time. So if if we're gonna have somebody who's trying to remove that program, a program that's helping people, achieve more than what's been given to them, what does that say? Especially with somebody who's worked so hard to get through school, to get their nursing license. That's a difficult process, and it's something that maybe somebody doesn't understand. But for her to be a DACA recipient, be in the front lines, and be helping out Americans who are in need, who are suffering from COVID-19, something that we don't know what it is. We're trying to know what it is right now. And she was there in front lines, and just to know that she put her life on the line for lives of Americans, for, to help people in need, is something that I let her know that, hey, I appreciate you so much, because I understand that took a lot from you, and that takes a lot. So I'm just very, very proud of her.
Olabori, it strikes me that every single person in the country has been affected one way or the other by this pandemic. But talk to us, if you're comfortable, about what it's meant for your family and for your relations with other people. And it could be some strains and stresses, but also could be good things that have come out of it. What's been your experience with your family?
It was hard because my mom works as a nurse, just like most people. Most of my panelists' parents too, or sister or family. We have people in the healthcare field who are working day to day, just trying to help people navigate through the hard times. So it was hard not being able to like physically touch my mom like I always used to. She stopped interacting too much with us just because she's trying to protect us from the COVID, and she tried to even do, like I said in the beginning, she would give us ginger tea just to like warm up our chest and just keep safe. And I didn't go out at all for months, and you don't want to know how that affected my mental health and my body, because I was scared of going out and contacting COVID because I didn't want to affect my siblings or anybody. So I was always inside. I mean, that even gave me more time to work on myself and be able to give myself the attention that I needed. It also helped me work on my time management and being able to wake up in the morning and just give myself the attention that I needed. In terms of my friends, it was a little hard. I almost fell off with most of my friends that we were really close in high school, because most of my friends moved up to college during that transitioning time, and I didn't really call them or text them. And then I was just one day, I was like, let me call them. And then we started talking, and then they expressed how hard it was for them transitioning to a place where they couldn't interact with anybody because the college wanted to keep them safe. So they were just in a room by themselves, just in a place that they've never been to, in a foreign place, having to take care of themselves with no physical touch or like having to interact with their family. I was privileged able to still see my family and being able to interact with them, but I've been able to get better, and I built a better bond with my friends now. We've gotten so much closer, and I'm proud of every single one of us because we've been able to learn one way or the other from each other, which is really great.
This pandemic, it really makes me happy to hear that you're all taking care of your family members and looking out for your friends and all of that. So now I want to ask you guys to kind of share with us your thoughts for the future. So given everything that has happened in our country during this pandemic, you know, over the last 7 months, what do you think you've learned about yourself personally, and what are you kind of hopeful for the future? Ashley, what do you think?
Well, I wanted to say that during this pandemic, I was in a really low place in my life. I stopped talking to my friends. I was going to my classes, I was doing my homework, but somehow I just didn't seem to have the energy to make that effort anymore, because if I could no longer see them, like that part of me that loves social interaction with people was kind of dormant during these times. And at the beginning of the school year, I decided to go all remote because I didn't want to risk that part of my health and the health of my family members. But I'm grateful that I was able to have this experience with my friend last month, about finally being able to see her face to face. And we spent the whole day together, and we just we started talking about our lives and how we've changed over these months. And it was really amazing. It was an event that before the pandemic you kind of took for granted, but now that I was able to see her again and talk to her face to face, it was a truly amazing moment. And if anything, that really taught me to be more hopeful that one day we will get through this pandemic and we will be able to go back to our lives, hopefully, that we want, and we truly want again.
So, Darius, to pick up on that, I mean, what have you learned from this experience? I mean, every experience, even the really adverse ones, teach us something if we look for it. What have you learned about yourself, about what you want in life, about where you're headed from this pandemic, do you think?
I've learned many things during the pandemic, especially being affected by the virus. It's definitely taught me to have gratitude for the things I have. It's definitely taught me to be thankful for just the little things that I have in life, because you don't know when those things could disappear. And another thing that it did, that the pandemic did teach me, I'm grateful that the pandemic happened. It helped me slow down and take a breather and take a step back to see how I was treating myself and to see what I could be doing better. How can I better organize myself? And it helped me ground who I am and help me figure out what I want, especially since I am in my last year of high school and I'm going to have to choose where I want to attend college and what institution I want to go to and what I want to do in life. This pandemic really helped me gain clarity on that. And for the future, I just really hope that I can be a part of my generation, continue to change things and continue to be that advocate for change, and continue when I go on to college and beyond to be that advocate to help as much people as I can to
Olabori, same sort of question to you. What have you learned from this experience, do you think?
Yeah, a lot of things. Self-care being number one, time management number two. I will always keep saying it, like I learned how to better manage my time and plan out my schedule, because being in college now, that's one big thing. If you cannot manage your time, you will fall behind in school and class and everything. Um, I used to watch a lot of K-dramas, Netflix shows, a lot. And I was able to cut down on the hours spent watching it. And I would now, after doing work, I would then reward myself by watching it by 1 hour. So after doing a good amount of work, uh, college is stressful. I will not sugarcoat it. But once you put in the time and dedication, you will achieve a lot. And I've been able to put in time, and I could tell you I'm doing so much better in college now. One other thing was reflecting on myself. Because I have so much time in the day now, and I was at the point one time, I just sat down, I was like, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing right? So I was able to meditate and reflect on my mistakes and not letting them repeat itself. And then what I did right that helped me get a better grade and then continue practicing it and getting better at it. I've done so much better at school, and I know if I continue doing what I want to do, I will be able to graduate fine and further my education into medical school and become the surgeon that I want to be.
Thank you, Olubori. How about you, Jose? What's different for you now, and what are you hopeful for?
It's made it necessary, I would say, to be more thoughtful in how I approach the work that I do, both academically and outside of that. Just because, considering not just the pandemic, but also, you know, the murders of George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, just having to see all that and go and see how people are interacting with each other during this time, it's made it necessary for me to take a step back and say that if we want to get to this world that's more equitable and more just, it needs to, of course, we need to do our own, you know, have our own change personally, but also be able to put that onto others and spread a lot of love out there, because that's what's necessary. And currently in time, I work at the Tang Museum at my school, where I'm starting to see museums across the world, across the United States, they're starting to change their ways to be more equitable, to be more inclusive, and just to be able to see that conversation go on in my time, makes me more hopeful for the future that we are going to see that world finally. Because unfortunately, it seems that although past generations have seen this, not many have made it, have made it this equitable world that it seemed before the pandemic. So we as young folks are trying to get that conversation going again, and this time we hope that we can finally end all this mayhem that's going on in the world. And I'm so proud, I have to say, you know, to have worked in the past weeks with you guys, my fellow panelists. It's been truly meaningful just to see how you all express yourselves and to know that we all come from the same place, but we're all, you know, we all have gone through the same thing during this time. And I'm very hopeful for Darius and Ashley that you both find institutions that allow you to express yourself just as you are now. I told Darius I think a week ago, and Ashley as well, that I really hope you find this, because it seems like we're all enjoying this process together. And just seeing you all talk, it makes me more hopeful for our future generation as a whole, to see how far we're going to go and create change, creating that necessary change that we all hope for. And we're hoping that older generations are able to hear our voices even more, because it's necessary during this time.
Amazing. Thank you, Jose. So we're going to start wrapping up now. I just really want to thank all of you for just lending your voices to us tonight and giving us the opportunity to hear from all of you. I really am just blown away by how active you guys are and how much you're tuned into the political climate of the country right now. I know that when I was a student growing up in Yonkers, I wasn't necessarily thinking about these things. They weren't necessarily at the forefront of my mind until I was much older. So it's really just inspiring to see how much you guys are motivated to bring about change, and how much you really want to be part of the solution and want to be part of that progress.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Charlene, and I'll include you in it too. I mean, it's just a pleasure to have watched you through the years, and now to see you, now you've joined the board, which is wonderful. But I'm going to end with where I started, which is the reason those of us who have committed some time and effort to YPIE, to be on the board, to help the board, is because of the people you saw tonight. And I said it at the beginning, but it sure was true for me tonight. Every time I deal with these students that we've been working with in Yonkers, I come away really enriched and encouraged. I mean, you see the intelligence, the talent, the thoughtfulness of these people, but also their resilience and their ability to really react to what has been a very adverse circumstance for everybody. But in many ways, you know, they don't have a lot of the same tools. But the thing that's most important, I've always thought, is what we do at Yonkers Partners Education is we don't help these kids. We just give them a little bit of a helping hand. It's they who are doing this. It's their own determination and grit and resilience and intelligence and talent. And it's right there. It's right there. It just, sometimes it needs just a little bit of encouragement, a little bit of direction, a little helping hand. And that's why, and I mean this in all sincerity, it's just a great privilege to be associated with this organization at all. So that's what I come away from tonight with. And with that, I'll hand it back to our illustrious executive director. He is, of course, Sam Wallace. Sam? Sam is speechless. We've lost Sam. Sam, did you fall asleep?
I was trying to get back in. I was sitting here crying for most of it, listening to the students. And in fact, I was crying for most of it. No one realized, I think, who's watching, that all of the panelists, there was a chat going. So folks sort of knew who, the tech and everything. And each of them was so unbelievably supportive of one another. After one, Ashley would say something, and the rest would say something positive. Way to go, Ashley. It's unbelievable to see that. And it leaves me, not just that, but everything you all said, so hopeful today. And even when every one of you were talking about some of the challenges of the pandemic, you ended every answer with, but here's some hope or future orientation that I'm thinking about. And as I sit and watch these panelists on TV and these focus groups after debates, I'm always left with like a hole in my stomach and a pit. But after today, I'm charged, I'm ready to go, and I thank you all for doing that. And I'm sure David and Charlene will echo that. And so I just want to thank everyone for being here tonight. As Jose said, just being able to articulate things to the world about what you're thinking and feeling matters. And that's what we're all about at YPIE, is giving you all a voice and somewhere to speak. So thank you everyone for joining us after, I'm sure, a full day of Zoom and school and work and whatever. And we just wish everyone the best. Go vote, because these folks are on the ballot. These folks are on the ballot. So best of luck, everyone, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.